Hi, I'm Venus O'Hara. Welcome to a new video. I made a video yesterday and I got so inspired and I thought I'm going to make another one today. So today I want to talk about sobriety because this month I'm celebrating 10 years of sobriety and I wanted to share 10 lessons, 10 surprising lessons that I have learned in these 10 years of alcohol-free living. This is also the title of my Substack article from last week, so I wanted to give a more in-depth version of the same topic. And I would like to encourage and connect with anyone who is sober, who is on a non-alcohol journey, and who is maybe thinking about reducing their alcohol. I hope this inspires you. And if you are sober, I would love to know the things that have surprised you on this journey as well, because it's not always what you expect. Anyway, so point number one is not everyone is happy for you. This is very surprising because, you would think that when you make a decision that's actually good for you and, that's going to bring positivity to your life, you would think that the people around you would be cheering you on and going, yeah, well done. But in fact, sometimes the opposite is true. Sometimes people can feel judged about their own drinking practices, or they might feel that you're not quite on their wavelength anymore, because you're not really. That's kind of true, I guess. But they say a friend in need is a friend indeed. And it's very easy if someone's suffering to offer empathy and try and encourage someone. But then when you start to thrive, that can also provoke feelings of envy and inadequacy. So it's important to see who those people are around you who are not going to be threatened by your progress, your success, and your health, So that's an interesting lesson to learn as well. So that's something that I found was very revealing, let's say. The second thing that I have found quite a lot, and this is maybe more relevant to my own circumstances or reasons for choosing sobriety, is that people assume that I'm in recovery, and that's not true. So sometimes if you say you're sober, if you don't drink, they may assume that you have an alcohol problem. And I think I would never have defined myself as an alcoholic. I never was an alcoholic, but there is something called grey area drinkers, which is something that Janie Lee Grace talks about, and she was a guest on my podcast, and she has a book called Happy, Healthy, Sober or something like that. And it was really interesting to kind of, I think a lot of drinking habits are unhealthy, even if you're not defined as an alcoholic. I grew up in an Irish, British culture, so I was quite used to seeing alcohol abuse as being normalised around me, and that's not something that we should normalise. I think there are ways of enjoying alcohol in a more healthy way, but for me, it just stopped being a good idea. And I think I've shared with you many times on here why I gave up alcohol. It wasn't really a choice. It was just a temporary lifestyle choice, just to kind of lose some weight for a photo shoot. But the photo shoot kept getting delayed. So I got used to sobriety and the clarity of it. And I really enjoyed it, actually. And I loved saying I don't drink. It just felt very powerful. I felt very in control of my life. So when people assume I'm in recovery, I do find it a little bit frustrating, because I put something on LinkedIn a year ago about sobriety. It was my 9th year. I was super happy. And then this group of sober entrepreneurs or something reached out, and they wanted to share one of my photos and posts about this topic. And I was like, yeah, great, more visibility. It was a great thing, a great opportunity. But then when I saw the post or the comments on the post that was shared, it was like, yeah, it's good to spread the message of recovery. And I was like, no, I didn't give up alcohol. I chose sobriety. It's not the same thing. But anyway, if you are in recovery, I think well done. But it's not everyone's story. So that's something I really wanted to share with the world. And also, more and more people now are choosing sobriety for many reasons, and people who don't really like alcohol. Number 3, just something which is a really big surprise. Well, all big surprises. 10 big surprises we have here. My social life is better, and people would assume that if you're not drinking, that your social life is going to be boring or limited. And to some degree, in the beginning, it was quite hard. And I shared a post about this the other day on Instagram, and someone said that they were trying to give up alcohol, but they see it everywhere. I can really understand the struggle there, and that can be true depending on what your social life is. But now I find that my social life is more varied. There are just so many things to do that go beyond bars and clubs and and parties. There is so much more to do. And I tried to kind of create a more daytime social life for myself, and things related to nature and spirituality and kirtans and kind of ecstatic dance. All those types of things are naturally alcohol free. So I would think it's a good idea to start thinking about those types of events, healthy socializing, so that you can connect with people who are not maybe non-drinkers, or not drinking for that particular occasion. But I do think in my experience of giving up alcohol and tobacco, at first there was a period of temptation, but then after a while that temptation became rejection. I felt very far away from that world. It was just very removed from where the direction I was going in. So now I'm so detached from alcohol and my former drinking self, that I can now go to bars and clubs and parties and be around people who are drinking, and it doesn't really bother me. It doesn't affect me. I can still really let my hair down, have a good time, and I remember everything. And another point which relates to your social life being better is that there's no downtime with hangovers. I mean, now I can actually go out more, and I'm actually drinking this drink called Vichy Catalan, which is a type of naturally carbonated water from Catalonia. Has a slightly salty taste, so it's only about €3-4 when I go out. So it's very affordable, and it looks like a gin and tonic. So I'm having it with lemon, so lemon and ice, and sometimes mint leaves as well, almost like a virgin mojito. So it's really interesting how you're spending less money, you can go out more, and there's no downtime. So that's something that is really cool about socializing. But I do think it takes a while to not be tempted by alcohol. Yeah. So number 4, another great thing is that there are more sober people than you think. It's interesting because when you start talking about this topic, a lot of people will say, well, I don't drink either. I've never liked alcohol, or that's something that I've found on my journey, that I've just, even when I left a post on my Instagram the other day, a lot of my followers are saying, yeah, me too, 35 years sober, 10 years sober. So it just seems that, just sharing and talking about this does almost give permission, or just encourages others to share their story as well. And some people don't make YouTube videos about it, they just do it in a more kind of private way. And this is a way of kind of connecting with those people, and then having something in common. So yeah, that's something that's really surprised me a lot. And I think for number 5, a bit of a repetition here, sorry. Number 5 is people feel judged about their own drinking. And that kind of relates to the first point, which is not everyone is happy for you. So people start to, I've been in situations where I've been, gone to a restaurant with someone, and someone says, do you mind if I get drunk? Or they've not really kind of indulged as much as they wanted to, because they knew that I wasn't on the same wavelength, and they start to kind of feel judged. But it's not really about judging other people, because let's face it, some people can handle alcohol and others can't, and that's what it's all about really. It's about just knowing, having some awareness about how it's affecting you, and if it's something that you can enjoy, and does it add value to your life. Sometimes it can. I was walking down the street the other day, and I saw this really nice wine shop, and it had this sign on it, says, we don't drink to forget, we taste to remember. And I think that's a really valid point. I think there is a place for, enjoying the taste of wine, how it complements food, how it's related to culture and history, especially in a place like Spain, where I am, and Cava. There is a kind of, alcohol is not just for abusing, it's for actually savoring. So I do think there is a place for that. So it's just about knowing if that works for you or not. So I think, being judged, people do feel judged about their own drinking. But I think there are ways to drink in a more moderate way. I just think sometimes, one drink can lead to 2 to 3, etc. Yeah, and that was my case. But I think for me, and just a bit of a sidetrack here, I started going vegan around, I've been vegan now for, I think it's 8 years. 8 years, is it? 7 or 8 years. But but the transition started way before that. And I just found that my tolerance of alcohol went right down. I mean, I used to my limit was 3 glasses of wine, 3 kind of small glasses, which used to be half a bottle of wine. But then I found that 1.5, I was like, whoa. So, just when I was going vegan, I'm not sure if that's anything to do with alcohol, or if the food I was eating just made me absorb it faster, I'm not sure, but that was my experience anyway. So sober self-expression is a gift. That's point number 6. So it's interesting, because something I really loved about alcohol when I started drinking when I was around 16, a bit young, I was so in love with this guy, and we used to go to pubs, and I was with a guy who was about 3 years older than me. And he was like the ideal man in my world at the time. And I felt very awkward around him because I was a virgin. I was like very limited life experience, but I was very in love. So sometimes we would go to pubs and I would get a little bit tipsy, and that kind of gave me this license, almost this permission to express myself in a more deep way. And then the conversations used to be quite juicy and flowing with expression and all the things I was afraid to say. Obviously you can get to a point where it gets too much, but that was something that was very that's something I really enjoyed about alcohol. And I think from say Irish and British cultures, there is that kind of inhibited nature that we kind of need alcohol to dance, to talk, to express your feelings. And that's another thing what attracted me to Spanish culture. When I was in Paris and I met lots of Spanish people, I realized that they didn't need the crutch of alcohol to express emotions and desires, and that was something that was very attractive to me. So but I think now, over time, I've been in Spain for a long time, I am becoming more and more comfortable with expressing my true desires, my true emotions and feelings without needing a drink. I'm not quite perfect yet in that sense, but I do think it's an important thing to learn. And you want to remember all these things as well, of course. So sober self-expression. You don't need just Dutch courage, you need sober courage. 7, sobriety is cool, and it's getting cooler. Now there are a lot more initiatives about sober socializing, and also there's a sober curious movement, which is a trend which is not really related to alcohol abuse. It's more about just wanting something different. And here in Barcelona, there are many initiatives, I'm sure, and many other places around the world that are connected to sober curious or sober socializing. Such things are like ecstatic dance or silent discos. I've been to I've seen lots of wellness raves advertised here. So I think there's lots of kind of cool initiatives that are alcohol free as well. So I think it's just a matter of doing the research of what's available in your area, or even starting something yourself. I mean, I started a group called Conscious Connections, and it didn't set out to be a sober group, but it became one. And it naturally attracted people who were looking for a sober Saturday social event, and it was really amazing, and people were choosing to join the group because it was sober as well. So that's something that I did for myself, for my own needs, and it was basically a dining and networking group. So I would encourage you to create your own group if you can't find one in your area, because it's such a really great thing to actually be in control of the social calendar. You get to meet a lot of people, a lot of like-minded people, because being sober can feel a little bit isolating if you're the only one in your friend group. So it might be a time to reestablish your circles or create new ones. Yeah. So sobriety is nuanced. Yeah, I think people think that, emotions are like this, and then you alter your perceptions with some kind of something that's mind altering, such as alcohol or equivalent, and you don't really need to. I think when you tap into your natural emotions and you meditate and you have more awareness about how you're feeling and why you're feeling how you're feeling, I think you can really experience the full spectrum of emotions and perspectives without needing to alter them artificially through alcohol or equivalent. And I think that's a really interesting phenomenon, actually. And yes, I think it's important to have downtime from alcohol if you do drink as well, just to kind of be more tapped into your emotions and how you're feeling, what makes you feel good, what makes you feel bad, and just be aware, have this awareness of the full spectrum, not just the happy things, but everything as well. And last but not least, self-love isn't self-destruction. Some people would say that, let's say, having a glass of fine wine is a reward after a hard week of work, and I see that a lot. I go to a private members area and they have an after work on a Friday, and it seems that people have kind of like, oh, give me that drink. And I used to be the same. I mean, I was the same. I used to drink on Thursdays and Saturdays, and it was something I really looked forward to. I just loved getting that hazy feeling and being on a different plane almost. But now I love my work so much. I've created a life that I really, I wake up in the morning and I'm excited to start my working day. I'm excited about Mondays and getting all the emails from clients and things, and just getting, I just love my life. So I don't feel that Friday like, oh my God, I need to escape. I think it's really worth looking at your whole life and creating a life that you celebrate every single day, so you don't need to have an escape from it, because at the end of the day we do work more than we drink. So that's how it should be anyway. So what I mean by self-love is not self-destruction is that one of the things that inspired me to become sober many years ago is that I was going down to a bottle bank to put all of my old bottles of wine in to recycle, and I started adding up the price of all of the bottles, and I was thinking, wow, how much have I spent on alcohol? And even in Spain, alcohol is pretty affordable, but still the amount that I had calculated or counted was still higher than the cost of a massage. And I started to think about, how much money am I spending on self-destruction? How much money am I spending on things that are not good for me? And how about if I shift it, flip it, and just start spending money on things that are good for me instead? So that's something that I actually started a self-love bank account to celebrate myself. And that's something that I would really encourage as well, to think about, if you're going to give up alcohol, the money you would spend on alcohol, maybe save it and then do something nice for yourself as an incentive. Another thing I wanted to mention as well is kombucha. Oh my God, I love kombucha. It has about, 0.0, a very tiny amount of alcohol, but I still would count it as a non-alcoholic beverage, and that's something that is a grown-up drink. That is something to enjoy when I go out to a nice place that has kombucha. Not all places do, but kombucha is it's like fermented tea, and it has probiotics. So it's a very healthy drink. Another thing I don't like about non-alcoholic drinks is that they have a lot of sugar. So I tend to go for things that are kind of healthy. So everything is just all about a celebration of self. So those are the 10 things that I have learned in 10 years of sobriety. And if you are sober, I would love to know what your things are, and let me know if there's anything from this list that you found surprising. Anyway, cheers to sobriety, and all my links are in the description below if you'd like to work with me, if you would like to buy my book, Orgasmic Manifestation, if you would like to download my free life upgrade meditation, it's there as well. Also my Substack, I have very juicy articles every Thursday, and my podcast as well if you enjoy my voice. Anyway, thank you for being here, thanks for supporting me, and cheers to sobriety. Mwah.